I really think that it's really important that you understand what to do and how to do it. Because I think a lot of people, try so many different things. I think a lot of people think that our business is your typical network marketing type of thing. And you just invite people to meetings and invite them and invite them and invite them and invite them and invite them. And pretty soon they start avoiding you. And you got to learn how to get good at our business to be able to do our business. But anyway, I think it's really important that you start learning, like what to do right now. And I think, it's really simple if you think about it. Like one of the things that you have to do is you got to learn how to make a living yourself. So I'm going to give you a few points. One is you got to learn how to make a living yourself. And the way you learn how to make it, another thing is you all need to pull out notepads. Okay. You should never come to a fast start school without a notepad. And you should be prepared to take notes. You wouldn't go to a college course without books, would you? Or without notepads. Okay, so you need to take notes because you're not going to remember this stuff that I explained to you. And I'm going to explain to you how to make $100,000 a year. And you need to write it down. So that's the first thing you got to do is start getting serious about your business because you ain't going to remember all this stuff. Okay, and then we always got the ones that think that say, oh yeah, I'll remember. And well, we can compare paychecks and see how you're doing because folks, you ain't never gonna, okay? When I started in our business, I fought for the front row all the time. See, I was here to win. I was here to be successful in this business. And I would fight for the front row all the time. It didn't matter if there was a room of 100 people or in the St. Louis convention that we had, there was 38,000 people. I always sat in the front row, always, because I was there and I was there to learn and get information and I was going to succeed at this business. And that's the attitude I took. And I went and I've been through training. I've been through meetings and I have probably a cardboard box that's about this big that's completely full of audio tapes ones that I personally sat in the meeting, not only took notes, but audio taped the whole thing, listened to it for several weeks. And the next one I do it again and do it again. It just takes time for you to be successful. It doesn't happen overnight. I'm going to talk about some things that, first of all, that you got to do before we get into this is, first of all, you got to learn how to make a living first. Okay. That's step number one. Step number two is then if you teach 7 to 10 people how to make a living and what they need to do to make a living. And let's say making a living is anywhere between, let's say, $30,000 and $50,000 a year. If you teach 7 to 10 people how to do that, you're going to make 100. Then if you teach 7 to 10 people how to make 100, you're going to make 1,000,000. So it's not difficult, is it? It's just keeping your eye on the ball and teaching people how to do it. So another thing that you're going to learn is building a big base shop is going to produce strong RVPs. If you're going to be an RVP, you want to be a weak, struggling RVP, or do you want to be a strong RVP that's making money, having a thriving business, that opens up your own office, has your own secretary, and your business is growing? Which one? Strong. Okay, so a couple things as we talk about this. Field train a frontline 20 to 50 wide. I'm going to teach you here a little bit about our business and how serious of an issue this is and what's happening here, okay? This was why PFS is poised to dominate the financial services industry. If you look at what's happening today in our business, the Business Week, you've all seen this, where Travelers Group is number 5 out of all the top 50 companies in America. Travelers Group is the number 5 best performing company in America. Travelers Group is traded on the New York Stock Exchange, like a lot of you have heard. Merrill Lynch did a report talking about our company and why, like if you were going to buy stock in the Travelers Group and you went to a broker and you said, tell me a little bit about, your rating Travelers Group as a buy rating. Why should I, tell me some reasons that's good about the stock. Here's what they would tell you. One of the companies involved in the Travelers Group is Primerica Financial Services. And PFS has introduced a financial needs analysis, a comprehensive financial planning review to be performed for all clients. The product is designed as a platform which to sell the PFS products, insurance, mutual funds, mortgages. That's how we deliver our products and services. So the simple thing, if you understand this, the way that you get big in business is you get good at it yourself and then you duplicate what you do. Okay. And the key here is if you master the financial needs analysis, that's how our business is delivered. So that's something right there that you just need to work on getting good at and knowing and understanding, and probably ought to have one for yourself so you know how it works yourself. And another easy thing, if you want to, you should be a client of everything that we do, and then you can sell everything that we do. Then you understand it. You understand how it affects you. You should be on the debt freedom program. You should have Trav-Cal insurance. You should have Primerica Life, mutual funds, and the whole thing. Folks, what we do is fantastic. So you need to practice what you preach. If you own what we do, it's easy to educate people and sell because you start seeing the benefits of it. So here's another thing that they have said. PFS, this is just to tell you what's happening in the company today. It says PFS completed 88,000 F&As in the first quarter of 1997 at an annualized rate of 432,000, larger than any other financial planning service or brokerage house that we know of. That's Merrill Lynch analysts. They're stock analyst people. All this stuff is facts, okay? So larger than any other financial planning. Guess who else does financial planning? That was in the first quarter. PFS is the only large sales force in financial services we know of targeted at middle-income consumer, coupled with the full range of strong products. It's an impressive organization. That was Merrill Lynch, folks. Facts so that they have to, write about us. Another thing, Oppenheimer. Now, here's what happened in 1997. Actually, about 96 is when we introduced the F&A. 97 is we all started learning about the F&A and really started doing it and applying ourselves and getting good at it. Now we're good at it. Over 152,000 F&As were submitted in the third quarter, which this was the October third quarter report of our company. We did 158, so 152 from 88 to 152. Pretty big increase, almost doubled it. And when they said 88, they said larger than any other company that we know of doing that amount of business. Now we almost doubled it. Just look at the business that we're doing. $386 billion is now over $370 billion of insurance in force. New term sales, $13.1 billion from $12 billion in the same quarter. Mutual fund sales, up 14%, $635 million. Variable annuities growing $110 million from $24 million the same quarter in 1996, a year earlier. Smart and safe business exploding, up 48%. Secure property and casualty, we did 25,000 policies compared to 10,000, and California's just got approved. Looking forward, we anticipate that cross-selling at the Travelers Group will take on an even greater importance than at present. Leading the way will be Primerica agents and their approach to using financial planning, or what Primerica calls the Financial Needs Analysis Software Package, to bring a broad array of financial products to Middle America. All that, folks, is facts that you would pull off our stock report. Not something we made up. Is that impressive or what? Okay, another thing I want to talk about is this thing called the E-Myth. See, this right here is a book that's written. It's called The E-Myth by this guy named Michael Gerber, and he did a study about why businesses fail in America, why most small businesses don't work, and what to do about it. Now, if you were going to go in business for yourself, wouldn't you want to know what all the other people that are failing are doing so you don't fail? Pretty good book. Well, what this book talks about is in America, folks, people go in business for themselves to start their own business, and all they did is employ themselves as now a self-employed worker. For example, if I'm a mechanic and I open up my own garage, and now I have now I'm a mechanic and I do all the work, and now I have to do the books, write the tickets, fix the cars, do all the stuff. I'm a self-employed mechanic. All I did is created a job for myself. That's what is called the E-Myth. This is called the entrepreneurial myth. That is not an entrepreneurial. You follow me? If you go into business for yourself and you're now a worker, that ain't what business is all about. And in PFS, a lot of people think they come in our business, they get involved, and they do nothing but sell for their whole entire career. Some people have been in the business 8 and 10 and 12 and 15 years, and they're still selling, and they never built a business that works, so someday they don't have to. Don't you want to build a business that works where someday you don't have to work? We went to Hawaii. When we went to Hawaii for a week, I came back and there was $14,000 on my desk when I got back. That's a business that works, whether you're there or not. That's what you want. Does that make sense? So here's how you do. Now, when you hire somebody in our business, you have to have a simple, transferable way that you hire somebody in the business, and train them and get them independent so they're on their own now. So you've duplicated yourself. Does that make sense? So we have what's called our business acceleration system. Our independent business agreement, you complete your $199 and you're registered with our company, and that pays for all your licensing. Then we have a new associate manual that explains to you basically what you should do. What's the right market? Who should we be going to see? How do you work your schedule? How do you make this work part-time? All that kind of stuff. Some statistics about what's happening in our country. A little bit about, some of the things that we do. Some recommended reading material. What you ought to do if you're going to learn this business. Don't you think you ought to know about the industry? The more you know about our business and our industry, the more confidence you have in what you're doing. The more confidence you have in what you're doing, the more people you're going to talk to. The more people you talk to, the more successful you're going to be. So doesn't it make sense to know what you're doing? So buy some books about what's happening in our business, and George will recommend them to you. It just makes sense, right? So now let me ask you something. If I was going to train you and you say, okay, I'm ready to get started, Chris, this makes sense to me. I see it's big. Okay, now what do I do? What you do is you put together a top training list, a top 20 training list. And what the reason for that is, I'm going to train you, and we're going to see some people that because if you started, now some people go, well, does you mean I got to go talk to my friends? Yes. Yes, you should talk to your friends. When you see and understand what we do, then we'd be excited about it. If you don't want to, if you're embarrassed or you don't feel good about talking to one of your friends about what we do, you don't understand what we do yet then. So you fill out a top 20 training list, and you know why too? If you were going to get in real estate, you know what you do? You get a flyer, or you get your letterhead, and you get your business cards, and you send them to all your friends, and you say, I am now in the real estate business. If you want to buy a home, call me. That's what real estate agents do. So isn't it probably important to do the same thing in PFS? Well, instead of sending out all that stuff, we take the ball and we control the point of contact, and we, train and teach how to do it. So let me ask you, do you think does everybody feel that they know 20 people? We see a raise of hands. Okay. So here's what I would do. And the way I'll explain it to you is the way you should explain it to other people. So if we did this, now you fill out this top 20 training list, we're going to qualify the best 10. And these best 10, now let me ask you something. In your first 30 days here, our goal is to do 10 appointments. So in your first 30 days, if you watched me do this presentation 10 times over and over, the same basic things, and the people ask the same basic questions, do you think you might catch on after watching how to do it 10 times? Can everybody say yes? Okay. Now, what we want to do is we want to qualify the best out of that 20. So the best qualified 4 to 6 pointers out of them top 10, what is a 4 to 6 pointer? A 4 to 6 pointer is, first of all, the best that you want to deal with is your friends and relatives. Okay, people that you have credibility with, because folks, they need our help, and you got to get this frame of mind that most everybody, probably 80+% of the people, don't like their job or don't like the income they're making. They want to make more, or maybe don't like the hours, or don't like the commute, or whatever the case is. 80% of the people you're going to talk to are dissatisfied about their jobs. So we're going to talk to them about what we do. And when we talk to them, we're going to talk to them about how our company is expanding, what we're doing, what our plans is, and what we do for the consumer. And if they're interested, great. And if they're not, great. Maybe they know somebody that might be interested. Maybe they can refer them to us. But I promise you this, I'm not going to embarrass you. I'm not going to make them mad at you. You don't have to worry about that. We're not going to pressure them. And if they're interested, great. And if they're not, great. Does that sound good? That's how I talk to the person I'm training. Because I want them to know I'm not going to go pressure their friend, make them look like a fool. Their friend get mad at them, and they're going to say, man, I wish I would have never brought this guy over to see my friend. Does that make sense? I want to have a good experience. When we walk out, I want your friend to say, hey, man, thanks for thinking about me. This is great. Make sense? So you want to always work in this market right here, which we call the hot market, which is your best friends and best closest relatives that you know the best. And you can say to them, hey, man, I'm in training. Can you and Mary help me out and sit through a presentation with me before I get licensed with the state of Nevada? And I'll talk about that in a second. And everybody does. And then you have your warm market, which is like relatives and work associates that on a pretty good basis, and you're good acquaintances. Make sense? Then you have what's called your lukewarm market. which is like, if like you go to the grocery store, or you went to the carnival, or if you went to somewhere and you've seen an old buddy of yours or old friend, and you haven't seen him for a year or two or three sometimes, and you see each other and you're like, "Hey, Bill," and you go out of your way to talk to him. The next thing you know, you're talking for 10 or 15 minutes because you haven't seen each other for a long time. Anybody relate to that? That's what we call your lukewarm market. So when you run into somebody like that, what you want to do is you want to, talk to that person like you normally would, and then get their name and number, because maybe you might not be in touch with them for a long time. You might not have their name and number. You get their number and you say, "Hey man, I got some information I want to get to you in the near future and talk to you some things about what I'm doing and might interest you." And then boom, you split, and then you set up a short appointment with them and so on. That's your lukewarm market. You're going to always, sometimes be doing that. And then you have the cold market, which the cold market you never want to work it. But if you don't have it going in the hot market, the warm market, the lukewarm market, you have to work in the cold market. And so I kind of relate it like this. If you're going to be in the cold market, you want to do as much as you can. You want to get out of it as quick as you can. So it's like this. You ever been like on a hot day where it's hot outside and you want to go swimming, and the pool's kind of cold, but it's hot outside. You want to get refreshed and jump in. So you don't stick your toe into it and touch the water and go down the steps like a knee at a time and just like agonizing, right? You dive in head first, you swim across the other side, and you jump out. Anybody done that before? Okay. That's how you want to work in a cold market. You want to do a ton of activity, a ton of stuff, a ton of, contacts, and then recruit a couple people and then get in their hot market. You want to work in their hot market. So the hot market and the warm market is where you get the best results, because now you're training somebody, you're duplicating yourself, and you should always try and be having somebody on your side at every appointment that you go on. Now, is that going to happen all the time? No, but that's what your goal ought to be. Does that make sense? I'm telling you, this is the key. A lot of people don't get this. This is how you build a big business, because our business is not about advertising on TV, not about advertising in the paper. It's about one-on-one talking to people. Most people are so skeptical, just like you are. Let me ask you this. Here it is, 7:00 at night. You get home from work. The phone rings. You pick up the phone and they say, "We're building patio covers in your neighborhood, and would you like to, we're doing roofing or this or that." And you go, "No, thank you. We're not interested." Boom. That's human nature, right? So what you want to do is not what everybody else does. Because when you call somebody up, and a cold stranger, and you call them up, it is very poor results. So when you hire somebody, now on that same, let's say somebody comes in your door and they're a total stranger, knock on your door and they're selling something or some charity or this or that. You make up whatever excuse you make up to get rid of them, right? But now go to that same door with their buddy next to them, and their buddy says, "Hi, Chris, this is my friend Chris. I wanted you to meet." And total different scenario, that whole wall of skepticism and that whole, cold wall of cold stranger is totally broken down. That makes sense? That's human nature, folks. And our business is a business of credibility. The better credibility you have, the better results. The better credibility your new person has that you're training, the better results. So people in our business, the people that do real well, what's a stud in our business? You hear that? We talk about, this person's a stud. What's a stud? A stud is a good, honest, hardworking, good person that knows people, that can get us in front of people. And instantly, people listen because they have credibility. And when they see what we do, it makes sense, and they become a client or they get involved. And that's how simple our business is. If you miss what I'm talking about, you are missing the boat. That's how simple this is, folks. That's how simple it is. Okay, so that's the top 10 right there. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is, after we qualify the top 10, you're going to introduce them people to me, and we're going to, do it together. So we're going to set appointments with those top 10, and you watch me do this effectively, this top 10, and you're going to get some great results. We give people two options. One of the biggest things in PFS that happens and people kill their business is we let people go make appointments on their own without knowing what to say and how to do it. Because most people give too much information over the phone, or they're talking to a friend. They give way too much information, and you don't need to do that. You let your presentation do the talking. Okay? So here's what we do. Best friends and family members. When it's your good best friend, somebody that you know real well, when you know them real well, it doesn't matter really what you say, but you just don't tell them all that much. And when it's a good close friend, let's just say this. If I was your brother or your best friend and I got a new car, would I have to call you up to see if it was okay to come over and show you my new car? No, I'd be pulling up the driveway, honking the horn. Hey, George, man, check it out, man. Or whatever, right? Okay, you keep it same. Keep it natural. Keep it simple. So what you do on a best friend, you just say, call them up. Hello, George, how you doing? A little chit chat. How's work going? What's going on? Heard, Liz is not feeling that good, or whatever the case may be. Because this is people that you know what's going on, right? You say, look, listen, are you and Liz doing anything tonight? You gonna be home tonight? Yeah, great. Well, hey, I got something I want to show you, and I got somebody I want you to meet. What about 6 o'clock be good, or would later in the evening about 8 be better? If they say, well, what is it? Which, you know what? Best friends never ask. No problem. Yeah, we're going to be home. Great. But if they do say, look, man, I can't explain over the phone. I need to show you some things on paper so you can understand it and give me your honest opinion. I have time available on this day or this day, and then you just set up the appointment. Okay? If they say, well, listen, if they insist and they say, just tell me what it's about. Who's this guy you're bringing over? Say, listen, I'm in training with this company. They're on the New York Stock Exchange. They're positioned to dominate the financial industry. I need to show you some things so you can give me some information. So you can give me your opinion, what time would be available, and just basic, okay? You can't avoid it, okay? Do me a favor, let Liz know, put it on your calendar, and if you're setting a date the next day or something like that, okay? Make sense? Okay, I think new people, when you're new, you need to know what to say and not say too much and keep it basic. And then, because here's the reason why, okay? Here's why. As I'm training people, and let's say everybody on this front row right here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. See, if I have 7 people that are unlicensed that I'm training, I have no problem making appointments. But now I teach everybody how to make appointments by what I just showed you right there, okay? Now, the next thing is, the second option is good friends, family members, people like that. Again, this might be a little bit better thing to do. You just call them a little chit chat, like you're seeing how things going, how's the family. Listen, the reason I'm calling is I'm starting a new part-time career and I have to get licensed through the state. I have to go through some training before I can go to school. Would you and Liz help me out and sit through a presentation with me and this friend of mine that's training me? See, it's non-threatening. It's do me a favor. Everybody wants to help you out. I'm in training. Does that make sense? And see, we're talking about the person's top 10, right? We're talking about the most precious results that we should be getting is them top 10. Okay, that's how you do this. And you teach them how to do it. Now, let's say if I'm training somebody and I'm training, let's say I'm training Chris. When I first start training him, I go through this with him. I walk him through it. I show him exactly what to say. I show him how to say it. I show him exactly what to do. But now after I've been on some training with him, now I call him up and I say, Chris, okay, now go over your options there. And let's, set up some appointments this week. And so how's your schedule look on, say, Monday? Are you open on Monday? And he says yes. And say, okay, why don't you book a few appointments and I'm going to be working with you this Monday. And he's going to schedule my week set now. I got him on Monday. I call Anthony. Anthony, look, hey, I'm open this Wednesday. Why don't me and you do some training this week? Okay, let's do some field training. My schedule's open on Wednesday. Why don't you go over your options there, set up some appointments, and let's work together on Wednesday. See, and I work with a person every night, and then my week's booked because I taught him how to do it. Does that make sense? So that's why all I do is focus on recruiting. If I focus on recruiting and I teach somebody how to set appointments and what to do, and they got a good market and they have good credibility with people, I'm going to teach them how to do it like that. And once they learn how to do it, guess what? I hate setting appointments. So I teach people how to set appointments and they do it. How's that? Is that simple? But if you don't teach them how to do it, you got to do all the doggone work all the time. I have fun at this business because all I do, it's like this. Have you ever seen a doctor? Have you ever seen a doctor at work? Like a surgeon? They walk in, they got all their assistants lined up. They walk in like this. Put the gloves on, scalpel, boom, do their work, right? They don't do all the scrubbing and washing and all that kind of stuff. So I just mastered how to do all this stuff, and I get all my assistants how to do this, and I'm training them how to do it. And I'm the surgeon. I come in and whip out the presentation. I go through the presentation, pick up the policy, do the FNA, get the commitments, boom, invite them to the meeting. That's how you make big money. And you teach people how to do that, and they start getting results. And the more the results they get, your income compounds. So same thing. You set your appointments, you schedule the times. Okay, what is it? All the same basic things. And then you know what? People don't have to remember so many things. They get it down. Another thing is you got to get good at doing drop-bys. When you're out in the field, you got to get good at doing drop-bys, and I'll explain this a little bit more in depth. But a lot of times you're going to go on an appointment and maybe one reschedules, and you have that person's list, and you drop by and see somebody, and you just have them introduce you at the door, and you take charge, and you talk to them a little bit and set up the appointments. You know, if let's say Chris took me over to George's house, and all Chris does is just introduces me. He introduces me to George, and I say, George, nice to meet you. Chris was telling me a lot about you. You know, he told me that you do great in my company. I don't know if you'd be interested or not, but I'd like to show you a little bit about what we do. Is your wife home? Now, does that sound like a script? That's a word per word script on our drop-by. Don't sound like it, does it? Just makes sense to me. I'm going to say, you know, he's told me some great things about you. I don't know if you'd be interested or not, but I'd like to just show you a little bit about it. Non-threatening. Is your wife home? See, so I'm controlling the conversation by asking that last question. He says, yes. Great. You have a few minutes? Great. Let me grab some information. Boom. Go in and do another presentation. That's what most people, you know what most people do when it's 8 o'clock at night and their 8 o'clock appointment cancels? They go home. And you can't do that. You got to make every night count. You got to make every appointment count. And you got to be overbooked, and you got to have things lined up, and you have to have a backup plan, and you got to make every night count. See, because the key I told you earlier is you got to make a living first. And if you make a living by doing 8 presentations per week, 8 presentations per week, there is no way that you cannot succeed. The laws are in your favor. The numbers work. You cannot go on 8 qualified 4 and 5 and 6-pointer appointments and not succeed. I don't care how bad you are. My first presentation I went on, I was getting lost. I said, look, this is pretty easy. Can you read it? And they started reading it. I was getting all mixed up, and they started reading the presentation. You know what? But I didn't, you know, inside I was embarrassed, and I was kind of, losing it. So I just kind of had them go along with me, and we read it together, and that's how I did it. And you know what? They became a client, and it's not that difficult, but you got to do it, and you got to do a lot of it, and you got to make every night count, and you can't keep going home. You got to make it work, because if you do it, and I'll explain to yourself in a second, but if you do it for a long enough period of time and you teach enough people how to do it, there's a period of time where it gets done. Okay, so now they watch me do 3 to 9 FNAs. If they watch me do 3 to 9 FNAs, you think they're going to get it? Absolutely. So what do we got to do on them FNAs? Our first visit, we're going to gather do the presentation and gather the information, get the commitments. Our second visit, we're going to get the ball rolling, maybe their custom term, their PNC, their family value account. On the third visit, we're going to make sure we set up the debt program, the retirement and their mutual funds and all this stuff after we see what we can save them and all that. So we try and go through a systematic way of doing it. Because see, remember that E-myth? You got to have a duplicatable system that people can learn, and you can duplicate yourself. Once you do that, your business keeps multiplying. Because if you train somebody how to do it properly, and they train somebody how to do it properly, and it just keeps getting trained, properly that way, then your business just keeps multiplying. But if you're not a good master copy, and you show somebody how to do it in a sloppy way, and it's like taking a video. If you take a VHS tape and it's not a very good copy, and you make a copy of it, and then you make a copy of the copy, and you make a copy of the copy, and you keep on making a copy of the copy, pretty soon you can't even see it about the 4th or 5th generation, right? Well, that's why you got to make sure that you do simple, transferable things, because people, it needs to, be simple. Then you see, the income potential on 9 FNAs. You're going to probably make anywhere from about $1,000 to $1,500 just in your training on 9 FNAs. And then you attend PFS University. And I found out that if people go in the field for their first 30 days, their IQ goes up 100% when they go to PFSU. Some of you didn't get that. Yeah. Their IQ goes up because they now understand what they got going here. They understand how the business works. Maybe they hired some people under them, and now they go into that school to get that sucker over with. And every time I got somebody where I've done several training sales with them, and I've hired a couple people, they pass. If it takes 2 times and 3 times, they pass. One of my regional vice presidents' name is John DeGeorge. He didn't know that many people in Las Vegas, and I took him on some appointments, and I closed 3 sales for him. And he had to take his insurance test 4 times. And he kept saying to me, I'm going to pass because I want that training reimbursement. Today, he's a regional vice president, makes $200,000 a year, over $200,000. Made $24,000 last month. See, what if I never took him in the field and he failed maybe that second time? He might have not went back for the third because he didn't have nothing to lose. But I had a $325 training reimbursement to pay him, and he was going to get that money. And today he's making big money. So now what we do is we say, look, you need to at least complete 3 FNAs prior to attending PFS University. And what our goal is try and get you pre-qualified for district, which means you hire 3 people prior to going to school, because then I'm going to start training those people, and I want to try and get them people to go to school with you at the same time. Maybe you could study together and apply yourself together. Okay, does that make sense? So we start off on a total different understanding. And so that's basically what we talk about. Okay, so now the first thing is that business acceleration system. Your first 30 days of training, properly how to go to it, learning how to set appointments. The next thing is, now after you go through your 30 days of training, we have what's called our education center. Okay, what we do is on every Wednesday, we do this every Wednesday from 7 to 9, we have product training and product certification to where you learn the ins and outs of how to do every part of our business. And after you start going through your training and appointments, you start attending this. And you do this week after week, and every week we have a calendar. Every week we rotate like which ones we're doing. Like we might cover mutual funds. That's this coming Wednesday. Matter of fact, we're covering mutual funds. Then maybe the debt program, the smart loans and all that. Then the protection, like the life and the PNC, how to do that. And then we cover the FNA. We have FNA training. So now think of this. Okay, think of this now. You've watched me do the presentation. We've been about 30 days of training. Now you start going to this and get your license at the same time, because now all you now need is the product knowledge. You just watched our sequence how to do the business. Now all you got to do is the product knowledge. So we have a system to where people can plug into it and follow it, and it's a total cookie cutter type of thing where it's all the same information, and I can have Anthony do it one night, and I can have George do it another night, and I can have, Danny do it another night, and each night that person does that mutual fund section or what section or the other, it's the same thing. So you know what? As you're starting to build a team and learning the business and getting good at the business and hiring people, as they go through their training, they start going through the training center. So we're training your people for you at the same time. You're learning the business, getting good, and your business it just continues to grow. Can you see that? Does that make sense? Telling you, we've just been doing this since the beginning of the year, and we are going to explode, and we are going to dominate the company. I guarantee you that. Then we have a presentation class too, where everybody needs to get good at their presentation. And then we have key points on field training. So all those things rotate week after week after week. Okay, now another thing is we have a 7-step training program of what you need to do, because we have our opportunity meeting. Now, if you look at your opportunity meeting in a different light that I'm going to show you right now, you're going to totally understand it better. So pay close attention. Y'all with me? No. See, that meeting is not just a meeting to pump up what's going on or motivate you or anything like that. It's a couple different reasons here. One is it's to show the bigness of new people coming into the business. 2 is it's to show the bigness of the people that are already in the business and keep on educating and motivating them to see in the big picture of the business. Okay? So here's how this works here. So here's what you do before the meeting. Now think of this. You sign in your guests. When you come in, you sign that person in. And if you're doing presentations throughout the week, you don't have problems getting people to the meeting. If you're across the kitchen table 5 or 6 or 8 times in a week, you always have somebody coming. It's when you're not across the kitchen table doing presentations, when you're trying to make calls and you're trying to get people to meeting and you're inviting the same people over and over and over every time. Look at your calendar and mark my word. You've probably been inviting the same person to the meeting over and over and over for at least 2 or 3 months. And they're getting sick of you calling them. So what you do, you pop by their house and you say, listen, man, I know you've probably been busy, but let me just pop in this video, show you a little bit about what we do. And you pop in a videotape about Primerica. And then you get them to the meeting because they just don't see big enough value to come to the meeting because they've been to meetings before. Okay, now think of this. Then you introduce that person that you brought to 3 people at least, because here's what happens. Have you ever been to a wedding or a party where you go in with maybe your spouse and you don't know nobody and you start walking around and you don't know nobody, you don't see no familiar faces? How do you feel? A little uncomfortable? And then after a while, if nobody says hi to you and you don't say hi to nobody, you kind of find the door and you slip out, and that was not very good experience of that party. Y'all with me? That's how people are at your meeting if you just come to the meeting and you don't introduce them to people. You need to make them feel comfortable, introduce them to 2 or 3 people. Then you need to sit them up front. The meeting is much better from the front. There's no distractions. You catch everything. Then now, after the meeting, here's what happens. You stay after. And you fill out, we have a little questionnaire that we fill out. We have some refreshments. And you introduce that person to the RVP after the meeting, or your manager, maybe a regional manager. Okay? Then you set return appointments. Right there, you do not leave that room until you set up a return appointment. You don't say, hey, I'll get back with you or come to the next meeting or anything like that. You set a return appointment in their home. It's in the next 24 to 48 hours. If they say, well, listen, how about let's get together next week? I say, look, I'm kind of busy, so I have an opening tomorrow at 8. Would that be good? Or would Thursday be better at 6? And you give them choices and you book appointment and you don't let days go by, because here's what happens. The longer you wait, they're excited. They came to the meeting. Then they start talking to people and they start saying all the wrong things and they start talking to people because all this stuff that they're learning, and they get questions that they get asked. They don't know the right questions, or they get some opinion from some mechanic they work with that they don't know what the crap they're talking about. And they get a little rejection, and then they kind of, you call them up for that next appointment or go see them. They go, you know what? I've been thinking. And, I really don't have that much time. And what they said is what they should have said, look, George, I opened my mouth. I told everybody about it. Everybody rejected me. I said all the wrong things, and I'm not interested no more. That's what really happened. Then you take home some information, and it's your responsibility to have the information. You have some PFS brochures. Then on the return appointment in the next 1 or 2 days, here's what's going to happen. They're either going to become a client, and they're going to give you referrals, or they're going to become a new associate, and you're going to go through the BAS system with them, and you have a new rep manual, and you go through it with them, and you work on their training list. You pop in a video and show maybe the spouse, and you start setting up some appointments. That makes sense? That's what you do. You don't say, come to the next meeting. They say, look, I'm ready to get started. You say, great, let's get started. Here's what we do next. We start working on your training list, and you start doing it. Does that make sense? The 5th thing is, now you're going to determine some goals. As you start making out their list and some plans, you want to talk to them a little bit about this. Because you know what? Everybody's different. Some people say, well, you know what? I want to work 1 or 2 days a week, and I want to make maybe $500 extra part-time. Or one says, you know what? I hate my job. I want to get this thing cranking, and I want to be out of my job in 6 months. And if you don't ever find out how serious they are, you don't know. You want them to be all serious, and they only want to do it 1 day a week. I wish I had 100 people that want to do it 1 day a week. If they want to do it 1 day a week, that's okay. Because as they get better and better, it might go to 3 days a week. But you got to start somewhere, right? And everybody's different. You with me? Okay, you want to let them know, like at Fast Start Schools, we have Fast Start Awards, and you can get promoted to district. And at the next Fast Start School we got coming up in 90 days, we have that you can get promoted to district by me hiring 3 people for you and getting them trained. Then you get in the field. You start going on those appointments, and you start working on those appointments, and you start doing that business. You get their top 3 buddies to the next meeting, and you pick up policies, and you do F&As. And then you just keep on duplicating that system with the next person and the next person and the next person, and it just keeps growing. And I don't know how 850 people showed up to our meeting last week or about 3 weeks ago at the Sahara Hotel, but there was 850 people there, and I didn't invite them all. But that's pretty doggone exciting, right? And I don't know where they come from, but you know what? There's people following the system, and they keep coming, and people keep making more money. And I keep making more money because we have a track to follow and everybody knows what they're doing. They keep following the track and it works. And you keep doing it. You with me? This isn't a maybe. You can make it and you can't and you can't and you can't. This is if you do the number, you follow what we're showing here, everybody can do it. So now you got to start learning how to work effective. Okay? Because you know what? Most people I found out, most people are employee mentality minded, and they need to be told like work starts at this time and it gets done at this time. You punch in here, you punch out there. So you know what? Here's what I found out. Everybody has 30 days in a month. Okay. There's 30 days in a month. And if you learn how to work effective, you can get a lot accomplished. In your first 30 days, out of a month's time, what happens is there's 4 meetings, your client night, opportunity meeting, whatever you want to call it, whatever you call it in your team. There's 4 of those a night. If you want to build your business, you need to be there. You need to be at that meeting because you're learning. If you don't have people there, you need to learn what's going on. And you need to keep working on your activity to keep getting more, to get people there. And then as your team starts growing, your team brings people. And a lot of times, folks, I see it every single week where what happens is, I'm there preparing the meeting. If somebody shows up and they say, is so-and-so here? And they're looking for the person that invited them. And that person don't show up that night because you might have invited them last week and they say, now, do you have that meeting the next week too? And they show up the next week and you're not there and you blow it. You know what? Listen to this. Anthony Boston was our top regional leader last month. I hired a guy, trained a guy in a business. He brought Anthony to a meeting. Wasn't the right time for Anthony, but he was impressed with everything we do. This guy quit, never came to the meeting. Anthony shows up, comes up to me. He said, look, this guy's name's John. He says, is John still around? I say, no, he's not. He said, well, he brought me to a meeting about a year ago, 2 years. He goes, he brought me to a meeting and it was just not the right timing for me. And I'm ready to get started. I said, okay, great. And I set a return appointment with Anthony. And now Anthony's direct to me and he's going to be an RVP. And that's probably going to be a $50,000 a year mistake for this guy named John. And folks, there's not too many $50,000 a year mistakes you want to make. Okay. You understand? So then there's 4 date nights. What we do is we work hard in the field. And then what we do is we take Saturday night off. Now that doesn't mean you take Saturday off. That means Saturday night off and take your spouse out for a nice date. And we go to the movies, we go to dinners every Saturday night. For the last 10 years, I've taken my wife out. Every Saturday night, we go on a date night. How about this? We used to date before we got married, right? Well, what happened after we got married? Who made up that rule that you don't date no more? So we go out and we have fun every Saturday night. And my wife knows I'll be home about 5 o'clock. I get home about 5 o'clock. And we're going to go on a date and we go to a nice dinner and a nice movie or a nice show, or we go out with a couple or we do some nice things. and we have fun. We have a sitter that night and everything's set up every single Saturday night. Don't you want to live like that? But if you work all week properly and you do what you're supposed to do, then you can reward yourself and go on a night. Then on Sunday night, we're on the phone. Sunday night is when your week starts. So tomorrow night, when tomorrow night comes, you need to be on the phone setting up your next week. Because when Monday comes, I want to be going on appointments that I already have set up instead of trying to set up appointments all week long. Do you catch the difference there? See, some people are trying to work all week long to set up appointments. I'm already got my week booked and overbooked, so I start Monday going on appointments all day long, all week long. You with me? So that's 12 nights out of the field. So out of 12 nights out of the field, Sunday nights, date nights, and client nights, that's 12 already. You're out of the field. So you got to make the other 18 count, don't you? So if you make the other 18 count by doing 2 presentations a night, that's 36 opportunities that you have to do a presentation. And if you're across the kitchen table 36 times, you got to be not too good to not do business. So let's just say that 50% of the time you have a dark house or no spouse, which means, one-legged appointment, which, the spouse is there and maybe the husband had to work or vice versa, whatever the case may be, they forgot, whatever. 50% of your appointments screw up. That's still, you have 18 good presentations for the month. Okay. You ought to have 10 new clients and hire 5 people a month. Personally, I did that right there for 7 straight years. And then we have a little reward and punishment program here on Saturdays and Sunday afternoons. If you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, I'd punish myself and I'd work Saturday afternoon, I'd work Sunday afternoon, and I'd do some more appointments to keep myself on track. Because my goal was to do 8 presentations a week, beyond a shadow of a doubt, make sure that happened every single week. And if I tore it up and everything went good throughout the week, like Monday through Friday, I'd take Saturday afternoon off. And I'd take Sunday afternoon off, and I'd make more appointments and book up my week and get more things accomplished. But if I didn't, I'd punish myself and I'd work. That makes sense? And by doing that consistently, that's what's built my business. That's what's done it. And if you're not willing to pay the price, see, there's no RVP on sale price, or there's no $100,000 ring on sale price. It's what you got to do to pay the price, to earn what you got to earn, to do what you got to do. And if you're willing to pay the price, it's an automatic. So now, another thing is, best way to organize your day, because it's important what you do and when you do it. Divide your day into blocks of time. Work one uninterrupted block at a time. Take breaks between blocks to refocus. Know what is most important for you to accomplish during that time frame. Focus on these tasks that bring you closer to your goals so you do not waste time. And it says here, source. Personal resource system and training consultant firm in San Diego. It's a consulting firm teaching people how to be successful in sales and management and how to manage their time properly. And so what I've always did is I've always done this. Here's how I've broken up my days. I broke up my days from like 9 to noon, and then from 1 to 5 and 6 to 10. And all this time during the day right here, that's when I'd be prospecting. And all this time right here, that's when I'd be following up on all the prospects that I'd be doing, and on the people I'm training and on stuff like that, or on F&As I got to do, or on things like that. And in the evening right here is when I'd be field training. And I'd be doing that. It's very simple to follow, and that's what you do. Just like you go to work every morning and you know what to do at your job every morning, this is what I'd do. I'd wake up and prospect every day. I'd follow up on all the activity I'm creating and stuff I got to do. And then in the evening, I'm across the kitchen table. And that's how simple it is. So if you're part-time here during the day, if you're 9 to 5 during the day, you try and prospect and have a goal of getting maybe 2 names a day. And if you do 2 names a day, 5 days a week, that's 10 names a week, 40 names a month. And you got plenty of time and people to see and places to go and stuff to do. That makes sense? So you just don't luck out and make $100,000, do you? Or $500,000. And if you follow a system and you develop a system and you work the system, then like that entrepreneurial myth thing, you develop people that do the same thing, and pretty soon you have a business that works. I don't know about you, that just makes all sense in the world to me. Now, what do you do throughout your week on your field training? Because the most important key here is your field training. Okay. Just good information so far. I know probably a handful of you will get this and run with it and do some big things. So here's what I do on Sunday night. From about 6 to 9 o'clock at night, I'd be booking up my appointments. Now, if I did a good job and I've been field training, I've been telling who I'm working with, like maybe Saturday, Friday, Saturday, or whatever, and I might already have half my week booked. So maybe I can work. I could be on the phone maybe 6 to 7, goof around, watch TV with the family. Oh, my week's already booked up. And then after 9 o'clock is when I'd be calling my team. How they doing? Where are they at? How many appointments they got? Stuff like that. I'd be monitoring them. But between 6 and 9, I really didn't accept any incoming phone calls of people, of my agents that wanted to talk and ask me questions or what's going on, because I'm either talking to new people, setting up appointments, field training, all that. So what do you do here? First thing is you focus on setting up your field training first. You should have a goal to have 10 unlicensed associate PFAs that you're working with at all times. And you work with the most ambitious ones. And if I call a person, I call them up to set up an appointment on Monday, they might say, well, I got family in town, or I'm sick, or I got to work overtime, or whatever. I say, no problem. Let's get together next week. Timing might not be right for that person. I go to the next one, the next one, the next one, until I book up my week. And I'm booked. And then if I have a couple more that want to get appointments going that I don't have time, I give them to somebody else to train. And I let somebody else train them because I don't want them to wait. Make sense? The second thing is, now after I book up my week and my week is booked, the second thing I do is I work on personal appointments, because you got to overbook. You got to overbook. Let me say that again. You got to overbook. Listen to this. Doctors, a good, successful doctor has a secretary that does nothing but book and overbook their schedule. And they have an assembly line of people coming in. For example, my friend works in the airline, and he told me that they overbook seats by 70% because they know people don't show. Southwest. Why are they so successful? Because they got a simple thing. They all fly the same airplanes, and they overbook the seats, and they fill up seats. If you fly from here to Vegas with an empty plane or 5 people, that is not a profitable business. You with me? So you set up confirmed appointments, and what we've been trying to do is, like, you guys have a little bit farther distance to travel, so we're trying to do more activity. We're trying to do a 6 and 7:30 and a carry back at 9 o'clock. So we're trying to do first time appointments at a 6 and a 7:30 appointment, and you guys do 6 and 8s. Okay. So then what you do is you set up. If I have my weekend people to train, I overbook appointments. The way you overbook an appointment is you add, like, if let's say if I met Chris at the hotel here, and I call him back a couple days later, and I say, Chris, how you doing? This is Chris Howard. I met you the other day at the hotel. I was telling you a little bit about my business. And oh, yeah. I said, listen, I want to see how your schedule is this week. I'll try and get you a little bit of information about what I was talking to you about. What time do you get home from work? And he says 6. I say, okay, great. What's the latest I could pop by and see you? And he might say 10. I say, okay, great. If I get a break in my schedule this week, I'm going to try and get by and see you, drop off a little information to you. By saying that, it seems that I'm busy, right? Which I am. So now what happens is, if let's say I'm taking George on an appointment, and our 8 o'clock appointment fell through, I say, okay, no problem. And I pull out my list and I go, Chris, met at a hotel. And I say, okay, George, this guy, Chris, I met, you can just go with me on this appointment. We go by Chris. Hey, Chris, how you doing? Listen, I had an opening my schedule. You got a few minutes. Great. This is my friend, George. I'm training. Let me show you a little bit about what we do. We go into another presentation. So what does that show George? George is watching me. I don't need George. George needs me. I got the answers. I know how to do this.
I got people to see, but I'm training George. But now George's appointment fell through at 8 o'clock, so I take him online. It's my appointment, but he just seen me do another presentation and it got a little bit better. Does that make sense? Now, what do you think George is going to do when he starts training people? Same thing. Instead of going home. And that's why most people don't make it big time in PFS quick enough, is because they learn this way too late, and you need to get good at this and not be reliant on a person. The third thing is referrals. And I'm so excited that the company is real soon here putting referrals into the F&A like the B&A, and we need to do a better job on referrals. So you put referrals on 3x5 cards as you start getting referrals, and you put them in a little card filing box, and you geographically put them in what areas you are, because if it's at 9 o'clock at night, and I just got done with an appointment, or 8:30 at night, and Chris told me 10 is the latest I could pop by and see him, and I have some more time, I pull out my card and I say, hey, this guy said 10 o'clock, I go by and see Chris and do another presentation. And I hit a home run this night because we did 3 presentations tonight. How's that? See? 10 o'clock's okay for him. It's okay for him. It's okay for me. I have sometimes in Vegas, it's crazy. There's people that would get off work at 12 o'clock at night on the graveyard shift and different things like that. Sometimes we have appointments at midnight. So you think, midnight? Who would do it? If it's good for them, it's good for me. Right? So I focused on 8 to 10 presentations a week. If you focus on 8 to 10 presentations a week, everything else will take care of itself. This one, do the things that others won't, so you can have the things that others can't. Points to becoming full-time. Get on a budget. If you want to succeed in PFS, get on a budget. Start living below your means. Start saving money. Start paying things off. Be successful part-time. Make and save money. Full-time game plan. Those of you that are full-time, you need to know how to work. You need to know how to work effectively if you're full-time, and you need to know what you do. Know what to do at what times, okay? Here's what we do. Daytime activity. You have 2 options of prospect. What I mainly did is I would take a couple days and I would be making phone calls, and I'd be following up on all the people that I've made contacts with, referrals from clients, all that kind of stuff. I'd take 2 days and I'd 3 hours a day from 9 to noon every morning, all but Monday. I'd watch the broadcast. I would do that 2 days per week, 3 hours each day. Every single time I do this, and folks, you know what? If you work in PFS, this business is so doggone simple. It's so simple. It's unbelievable how simple this is. Then I'd be focused on prospecting. I'd spend 2 days a week prospecting, 3 hours a day, 9 to noon. I'd team up with somebody and I'd go prospecting. And I did that. That was my daytime activity from 9 to noon. At night, I'd be focused on 2 presentations a night, 4 nights per week, 2 presentations on Saturday if you're behind on what you're supposed to be doing. And it all works. And this is the result of the E-Myth. Everything that I just showed you right there. Is that a pretty defined system? If you follow that and teach people how to do it, see, I believe that, you know what? Most people are not lazy. Most people. There's a lot of lazy people. But most people are not lazy. They just don't know what to do. And if they knew what to do and they had somebody help them what to do, they would do it. And if they know the rewards, the kind of rewards that they can have, and they do it, that most people are willing to do it. They just don't know what to do, or they're not good at it yet, and they have a fear in them that they don't want to be embarrassed, so they'll rather do nothing than go out and do something and get embarrassed. But if you teach people like the Ed Center training on the product knowledge, the presentation knowledge, and then you teach them what to do and how to work a consistent schedule like that, they'll be successful. Now, what I just showed you right there is a lot of focus and a lot of effort and a lot of intensity right there. But you know what? For 3 or 4 years, here's how this works. This is the E-Myth philosophy right here. For 3 or 4 years, you'll spend 90% of your work in your business and 10% on your business, which means you'll be field traded about 90% of the time And about 10% of the time, you might be working on, your presentation and learning things and going to training seminars and going to classes and going to stuff like that because you got to get the knowledge. Okay. And then you're going to spend about 2 or 3 years where you spend about 70% of your time in the field training and more like about 30% of your time on your business. So 70% in your business, 30% on your business. Then you'll spend another 2 or 3 years where you spend more like 50-50, where now it's more like 50% in the field, 50% where you're counseling people, helping people, training people, holding training classes, doing things like that, that now you've built a team. And there's no doubt about it, you're going to be a regional vice president at this point right here. You're going to start developing a lot of successful people, and you're going to have an unbelievable business. So this right here is where I am at right here. Okay. Because you know what? We have an incredible example in our upline called Hector Lamarck. That Hector Lamarck, the reason why he has the most successful business in PFS is because he focused on working and training and developing people way past him becoming financially independent. He was financially independent, making over 800 grand a year, still working in the field training, developing, teaching, educating people, recruiting people. So with that kind of an example, see, most people would already be out of the field and retired, making 300,000 or 400,000 a year. But because we see what it looks like, if you make that little bit extra effort for 2 or 3 more years, then you have the unbelievable life. And then you spend the rest of your career 10% in your business and 90% on your business. And you have the life that's unbelievable freedom to do whatever you want. Like right now, Hector is playing golf with Roy Matlock in a tournament in Palm Springs right now, making 200 grand plus a month. How's that? Now, some of you, that might be enormous thinking, but you know what? What if you could do 1/4 of what we're talking about? It's awesome. There is nothing like PFS. There's absolutely nothing like PFS. To build a business where you have the freedom to where your business works and you have offices. I have 11 offices now. We talk about this. It's ridiculous. I have 11 offices and I pay for one. I have about 1,000 agents and I have 2 secretaries I pay. That's unheard of in business. My overhead is about maybe 15% of my income. And that is unbelievable in business, folks. That's why PFS is so incredible. And if you do that, it's ridiculous. So does it work? Here's my regional vice presidents. John DeGeorge this year is on track to make 400 grand. Rick Rupert, 400 grand. Danny Duffy, 400,000. Brendan Merton, 400,000. My brother, Dave and Tina Howard, 300,000. Kelly and Judy Norda, this guy right here used to own a gas station. Sold it today in PFS, 300,000. Kalita Durham, 250,000. Chris and Jenny Strong used to be an accountant for Coldwell Bankers, 200,000. Steve and Shirley Winters, they're our regional vice president up in Reno, 175,000. Ed and Rita Baker, also up in Reno, 125,000. You will be successful if you help others become successful. My income target this year is $1.4 million. And folks, when you got a team of people like that, it's not hard to do. All you got to do is follow the system, work hard, keep focused, keep a positive attitude, and teach people how to do it. And it's that simple. So I hope you learned some things, folks, because you know what? The rewards are so worth it. There's nothing that you can't accomplish if you want it bad enough. You can have every reward in your life that you could accomplish if you think about it. And I want to end with a little story here. You know what? I think everybody has something that they wish they could have did, or they had a chance to make it in their life. And because of circumstances, whatever case may have happened, and you blew that opportunity. You know what? All my life, I grew up racing motorcycles and riding motorcycles. And all my life, my goal, my dream as a kid growing up
was, like how they have the supercrosses and stuff like in the LA Coliseum and stuff like that. I raced in that 2 years and raced in the supercross series and did all that stuff with all the best of them. And all my life growing up, I used to read about them and I used to, race and go watch them and all the pros and all that stuff. And then as I grew up, I started racing with them and beating a lot of them and like a dream come true as a kid growing up, your dream is to, get a factory sponsor and get a nice big salary and have your own mechanics and have all the goodies and have some endorsement contracts and make big money. And it's like the dream as a kid, just like maybe an NBA star or something like that. Okay. Well, growing up, I started doing pretty well, started coming down here to California, racing every week and got sponsored by a big company. And it was the next step would have been a factory sponsorship and all that kind of stuff. And I started at the peak of my career. Okay. Um, I moved down here to California. I got an apartment over by Disneyland. I was racing 3 times a week. I was training every day. It was all, everything was paid for. But the only thing is I didn't have a salary. But I was like 21 years old and it was like a dream come true. I had my own mechanic. I had my own motorcycles through 2 or 3 or 4 at a time. And it was like the dream, folks. And then right at the peak of my career, it was like about 2 months before the nationals starting. And I was doing very well. Things were going great. And I moved in with my sponsor and 2 other guys. And this one guy I started hanging around and we started training together and we were doing aerobics and racing and riding and all this stuff. 2 weeks before the nationals, or actually 2 months before the nationals, we were training. And one day it was kind of a joke that we had these spray bottles while we were working out. He had this friend of mine had this spray bottle. And one day I'm working out and he's over there. He sprayed himself down. He was all looked like he was soaking wet. And we go back to the house and they're working on our bikes. And he says, so how'd you guys work out? And we go, great. And we go in and take a shower and he didn't do nothing and I did. And the next day we go work out and we kind of make a joke out of it. And we both spray ourselves down and we go back and this went on for about a week and we were kind of screwing off and then pretty soon I started kind of feeling guilty because these guys are working on our bikes and here's the nationals coming up here in a 3-4 week period. And I was in the best shape of my life, the peak of my career. I mean, on the verge of all my dreams coming true. And I had all the equipment and support that I needed. And it was like that close. And we started doing that stuff and screwing off and not riding and not training for about 2 months. And was my ability still there? Yeah. Was my physical shape there still there? Yeah. Everything. But it started playing mind games with me and I started feeling guilty. And I don't know what happened, if God punished me or what, but one day I was testing my bike and I crashed without a helmet 2 weeks before the nationals getting started. And I broke my shoulder and broke my finger and got a concussion. And that quick was the end of my career. All my dreams and goals and all that shattered right there. So folks, who you hang out with is going to impact your life like you cannot believe. And I don't know if this is your first chance in your life to do anything or it's your second chance. I don't know how many chances you get, but my second chance was PFS and I took it to the fullest and I ain't even started yet. And that's how serious you got to get about this opportunity. So thanks.